Good morning and welcome to the Clermont County Board of Commissioners meeting. Prior to the official start of our meeting, we always try to include local clergy here from our community to lead us in prayer this morning. And Father Ralston is here from St. Bernadette Parish, and we are tickled that you're here today. And if you please lead us, the commissioners, and the residents of Clermont County in prayer, we would appreciate it.
Good and gracious God, we believe that you are the source of all goodness, you are the source of all justice, you are the source of all peace. And so we come to you this morning asking for that goodness, that justice, and that peace to thrive in our own hearts, in our own lives, and in our communities, and in our country. We ask that we may know your blessings, that we may be guided by your Spirit, that we may be willing to seek that peace in all that we do. We pray for all of those, Lord, who are continuing to serve us as frontline workers, as emergency personnel, as military individuals as well. We ask that you continue to bless them and protect them in all that they do. We ask you to be with those who are sick and injured, to grant them quick healing and let them know your presence. We thank you for your many continued blessings. And we ask all of this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father. And now if you'll join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll start our official meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I now call this meeting of the Clermont County Board of Commissioners to order for June the 10th, 2020. And we will go right down our agenda. B is the approval of regular session minutes for June the 3rd, 2020. Board, I know you've had these minutes early, had an opportunity to review them, have clarifications and changes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 3rd, 2020?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and received a second. Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Humphrey,
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Prior to going to our agenda item for C, I am going to move item I up, county staff and elected official discussions. I understand that Julianne Nesbitt is with us this morning and that she is here to give us an update on the current health situation and the COVID-19 restrictions. Morning, Julianne.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for having me. It sounds like you got some echo. I just want to make sure you want me to continue.
I believe we're good on this end, Julianne. Are we good?
Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and proceed then. So Clermont County cases, the information is up on our website. We did adjust it a little bit and change it just to make it a little easier for people to kind of see what we're dealing with currently. On it, we have a total accumulated 234 cases. Unfortunately, our death did go up. We had an additional death last week. We've had 41 hospitalizations, 81 individuals have recovered, so we are currently working on 47 active cases. I will indicate we've kind of started to see a little bit of a trend in the age range of our cases. When we first started out, it was typically our older population, but we are starting to see cases in our younger population, the teens in the 20s. We're starting to see a little bit more of that as things open back up. So a couple things as far as, you know, there's lots of things opening actually today, and then there's kind of another wave of things. So I think some key things for particularly here as for today, movie theaters, playgrounds can reopen, and then kind of museums, zoos, aquariums, so some entertainment for people to open back up. And then June 19th, amusement parks can open. Doesn't mean they are. I think I saw Kings Island's opening the beginning of July. On it, water parks, casinos, and casinos can open starting on the 19th. Additionally, we received some guidance that marching bands can go ahead as long as they follow the non-contact sports. So for some of our schools, marching bands can resume practice for that, we are hoping to get some guidance in the next week on the kind of moving forward with full contact sports. And then there was an amendment to the order for like the restaurants and the retail food establishment areas, where they can open up common areas, like common congregate areas within those facilities, as long as they still kind of follow the guidelines on it. So that it dealt with things like arcades and billiards, kind of congregate areas that they may have had can open up with that. So that is all I have at this point, unless you all have questions for me.
Julianne, just if you could comment, what do you see as far as future? What are you hearing from from the intel that you gain from obviously the state agency?
Sure, and I'll be honest, we don't get a whole lot more than what the public gets coming down from the state until it's actually released. So we don't get a whole lot of pre-information coming down about it. We know there's a few things as far as those bigger congregate gatherings, fairs, festivals, and stuff that they're still not giving out guidance on. We've been told that they are going to continue to work on some things, but we don't have a time for anticipating when that may occur. And I do apologize, I did want to touch on one other thing. At the county fair, there was additional guidance that came out late yesterday evening. I've been in communication with a couple of fair board members this morning. They're reviewing that guidance. It is potentially going to provide them with some funding. So they may be reevaluating what they had been planning to do. Particularly for the junior fair moving forward, but that is the fair board's decision to make. So we will certainly support them and help them out in any way that we can. But there was an initial guidance document came out, and then there was a slightly different one that is a little bit more feasible for them to, I think, abide by and deal with, that came out late yesterday evening. So they will be taking that up at their fair board meeting.
I had understood that they have a fair board meeting, I believe that's this evening, and I was also aware of that guidance that they had received. Obviously, they had previously made a decision not to have an adult fair and to only have a junior fair by virtual reality. But I understand there might be a reconsideration for that because of the new guidelines and some of the direction that came out. That's strictly up to the fair board. But to make a comment on that, it would be great if they could accommodate a junior fair. Obviously, these kids have had a lot of impact to them, from graduation ceremonies to homecoming to sports, and if that's possible, it would be great. But obviously, it's got to be done safely, and got to ensure that their safety is first. So my support's behind the fair board with whatever decision that they make.
Yeah, and ours is too. We've really tried to. We will work with them in any way that we can to assist them. We actually had staff at their fair board meeting last week. Unfortunately, given the short notice, we can't be there this week. But we've indicated to them we'll do whatever we can to try to help them out with guidance and planning moving forward.
I know these young people have worked very hard. Obviously, these animals are at optimum weight for that. Awful hard to gauge an animal's wellness and its fullness by virtual. So I'm looking forward to hear what the decision is that they make. Thanks, Julianne. Always thanks for taking your time out of your busy schedule to be with us here.
And we know you're really busy.
Yeah, we keep thinking it's going to ease up, but it just seems to roll from one thing into the next. So we're gonna keep plugging through, really just working with the businesses on it. We are bringing some additional staff on through some grant funding, the hair contact tracers that'll help us out a little bit. So we're just kind of waiting to see what next steps are, and eventually, in a couple months, as we hear more and more about potential vaccine, planning will somewhat shift and to see what the future will bring.
Thank you again. Any questions for Julianne this morning, board? Okay. Thanks so much, Julianne.
Thank you.
And we'll move to the next. I understand that Mary Raines is here with us this morning from the Office of Management and Budget, and it's my understanding that you're going to give us an update on some of the latest budgetary projections that have come out from the state and obviously through CCAO. And thanks for being here. The podium's yours.
All right, not a problem. Mary Raines from OMB, and I don't have a whole lot today, but I did receive the CCAO email this morning with the State Department of Taxation's preliminary non-auto sales tax revenue estimates based on April that we'll get in July.
And just for those who are watching, just short definition of non-auto sales tax revenue.
It's the basic retail sales. So they've got like half a dozen different categories that are reported, but they're the master numbers. Businesses have to report their sales tax by like 23rd, 26th of the following month.
Mm-hmm.
And then the state has 45 days before they distribute it.
Okay.
So that's the non-auto, non-watercraft.
Okay.
They're showing right now that we're 14% down from the April of 2019 receipts, which shows we're doing better than the state. Their state is down 17%. So, next week we should get the March numbers, and we'll see how their preliminary numbers stack up. Because at this point last month, they showed us down 2%. So we'll see how that all shakes out in the end.
Now let me refresh my memory a second. Although 14%, being down in revenue is 14% is not a good number to talk about. It is much better than the original number that was projected, is it not?
Yes, we were looking at, maybe 50% down at this point. And it's also helped us in the cumulative basis that we've been running about 7% higher through the first quarter of the year. So, I think in the long run, we're still going to see a reduction from our estimate, but it just might not be the $5-6 million that we had originally projected. Keeping our fingers crossed, we'll see how
Maybe
this goes.
something less.
Right, maybe
Good
something
thing.
less, which
Be
would
good.
be a good thing. With that also, the casinos are opening June 19th. So I re-looked at the revenues there. That'll be 96, 97 days that they've been closed. So our revenue will be down a little over 700,000 from the estimate. So hopefully, they'll get back into it and things will start picking back up there. So next week, we will have the tax budget presentation. And at that point, I'll present everything that the departments have submitted and what they anticipate the impact of the pandemic has on their funding. So it goes beyond the sales tax, casinos, and local government funds. There's some state cuts, with the state cutting 20%, and then court costs and all the ancillary things that go along with those cases. So next week we'll have more information for you.
Okay. And as in any situation, we projected the worst, which is exactly what we should do to make sure that we have that covered. And now what we're seeing is the actuals are better.
Right.
It's still going to be a deficit, but it's starting to look like it's not going to be near the $7 or $8 million we thought it was going to be.
Right. We were hoping that the internet sales would help offset some of the businesses closing their brick and mortar stores.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like it's working.
Good.
So-
So, even though it's still bad news, it's better news.
Better news. That's right.
You bet.
Good or bad?
Yep.
Yep.
Any questions for Mary, board? Additional information that you'd like to know? All right. Well, Mary, thank you.
All right.
Thanks so much. See, we have a couple proclamations this morning. We have a proclamation designation of Flag Day, National Flag Week in Clermont County. Frank is going to accept flag. Who will be accepting the elder abuse proclamation? Cindy?
Cindy Gregg.
Okay. Hello there, Frank.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm great. How you doing today?
Fantastic. If you'll let me have the podium a moment, I will. I understand you are here to accept the proclamation for Flag Day.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your service. Thanks for what all veterans have done. Just recently, we have experienced D-Day, obviously. You know, there are many, many men and women who sacrificed not only their lives, their time to fight for freedom abroad. That I just wanted to say to all of them and their families, you know, thank you, thank them, you know, and thank the people who wear the uniform of the Armed Services of the United States, who stormed those beaches in Normandy that June day.
The greatest generation.
You bet. And in addition to that, I have a proclamation today for Flag Day, June 14th, 2020, National Flag Week, June 14th through the 20th. Whereas, since the Second Continental Congress adopted its design more than 200 years ago, the Stars and Stripes have been a powerful symbol of freedom, hope, and opportunity. We fly Old Glory from government buildings, schools, city halls, police and fire stations, stores, offices, and our front porches. Wherever Americans are gathered, sporting events, places of worship, parades, rallies, our flag waves proudly, representing the enduring spirit of our country and of our county. We are no exception to that. As you can see here in this particular boardroom, we fly all flags, and the United States flag is the #1 flag. Whereas on June 14th, 1777, the Continental Congress passed a resolution defining the colors, configuration, and symbolism of the Stars and Stripes, which is known as the American flag. The American flag helps us to never forget the bravery of the men and women who defend it. When we look at the red, white, and blue, we are reminded of blood spilled across generations to safeguard liberty. We're filled with pride and patriotism and reminded of our fight for freedom. And whereas on May the 30th, 1916, President Woodrow Wilson issued a proclamation deeming June 14th as Flag Day. On this day and this week to follow, let us recommit ourselves to the principles upon which our county was founded. With grateful hearts, let us reflect upon the price of freedom and the brave souls who gave their lives to preserve it. As we raise our flag, as we stand and salute our place, our hands over our hearts, let us renew our sacred pledge that we will forever remain one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, therefore, we, the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim June 14th, 2020 as Flag Day, and the week of the 14th through the 20th of June as National Flag Week in Clermont County, and encourage all citizens of Clermont County to proudly display the American flag and to observe with pride all those days from Flag Day through Independence Day as a time to honor America. This proclamation is signed by the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, David L. Painter, President, Edwin H. Humphrey, Vice President, and Claire B. Corcoran, member of the Board of Clermont County Commissioners. Frank, on behalf of the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, I now present you this proclamation for Flag Day for June 14th through the 20th. It's Flag Week here in Clermont County. Thanks to you and all the men and women who have worn the uniform of the Armed Services of the United States. We're proud to present you this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any word?
Well, thank you very much, sir. I appreciate being presented this today. I do want to remind that we do collect used retired flags in our office. We have a repository down in the lobby of our building at 76 South Riverside Drive. So please, I encourage you that if you have a flag that needs to be retired, feel free to bring it in and stick it in the box, and we will retire it properly. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank, for being
Thank
here
you.
today.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
for
ma'am.
coming in.
And we have a second proclamation this morning. And this one is for Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Clermont County, which is June the 15th. Cindy Gremke is here this morning with Clermont Senior Services to accept this proclamation. You would stand. This is a proclamation for Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Clermont County, June the 15th, 2020. Whereas Clermont County's more than 30,000 older adults will increase in number by 120% between 2010 and 2020 and deserve to live safely and with dignity. And whereas with the increase of the elder population, abuse to adults aged 60 and older has become more prevalent in our communities. And whereas elder adults of all socioeconomic, racial, and ethnic backgrounds may be targets of abuse, neglect, or exploitation, which occurs in families, long-term care facilities, and communities. And whereas in 2019 there were 505 reported allegations of abuse, neglect, or exploitation of elder adults here in Clermont County. And whereas protecting Clermont County's elder adults is a community responsibility, and it is imperative that communities work together to help reduce and prevent abuse, neglect, and exploitation. Whereas Clermont Senior Services serves as an advocate for the elderly and encourages all citizens to join us in building strong support for elders to recognize and prevent neglect or exploitation of elder adults. Now therefore let it be proclaimed that we, the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim June 15, 2020 as Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Clermont County. And this proclamation is signed by the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, David L. Painter, President, Edwin H. Humphrey, Vice President, and Claire B. Corcoran, Member. Cindy, on behalf of the Clermont County Board of Commissioners, I'd like to present you this proclamation identifying Elder Abuse Awareness Day in Clermont County for June the 15th. Thank you and Senior Services for everything that you do.
Thank you very much.
And the podium is yours if you'd like to say a few words.
All right. I would like to take this time to thank the Board of County Commissioners, especially for acknowledging what a serious problem we have, and it's really, we're going to be making as many people aware of this as we possibly can in our county, but it's also World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So this is just not a problem that affects our community, but sadly it affects the entire world. And we are committed at Clermont Senior Services to do everything we can to protect the well-being, the lives, the health of those older adults in our community who in fact are most vulnerable. And we have an amazing staff of investigators who work diligently, and frankly, they're out there in the evenings, they're out there on the weekends, whatever it takes to do what they can to protect older adults. We appreciate the faith that the commissioners have put in us, but then also the Clermont County Department of Job and Family Services with whom we contract in order to do this service. So thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for being here today.
Okay.
And then Cindy, while you are here, I understand that our next agenda item is a presentation for Clermont Senior Services, and you are here today to do that for us.
I am.
And glad that you are here. The podium is yours.
Okay. And as you can see, Clermont Senior Services, we have just in June completed 50 years of service with heart. And it's been a period of time that has seen a great deal of change and a lot of growth. And I really do appreciate being able to be here to talk about 2019. It seems so long ago. For so many reasons, it seems so long ago. But I do appreciate being able to do that. Our board of directors is very, very dedicated to the services that are provided by Clermont Senior Services. Lisa Jackson is the chair of our board. I sent to you previously our narrative report that contained all of the information, a lot of information. So I'm not going to be, needless to say, I'm not going to be detailed to that extent. But I would like to share a few things with you relating back to 2019. Clermont Senior Services has been in business for 50 years. We are a private not-for-profit organization, and we provide a very broad range of services for older adults living in their own homes. The idea is that we are going to keep them living in their own homes as long as we possibly can through those services. And from a taxpayer perspective, that's very important to understand because, you know, at 1/3 the cost, and many times less than that of nursing homes, independent living is very important. In-home services save taxpayer an average of about $5,000 a month for every frail senior receiving Medicaid-funded nursing home care. And we do have a bias to serve. We service with heart is our tagline, and we definitely mean that. It is the culture of our organization, and we hope that the community sees that in the services that we provide. And it is the community that has supported Clermont Senior Services in this work now for many, many years, and since I think it was 1982 when the very first levy was passed to support services for seniors. Our typical customers, 69%, are female, age 76, living alone, making about $1,200 per month and less. Our youngest is age 60. We serve persons age 60 and over. And our oldest living at home independently is 105 years old, and we love that. As you can see down below, we have a sort of a graphic here of the percentages by age. 90 plus is 9% of the people we serve are 90 and older. 73% of all of our revenue comes directly from the levy. So it is in fact levy revenue. But beyond that, it serves as local match for other funding sources like United Way, and there is a specialized medical transportation program provided by the Ohio Department of Transportation, which is a very good example. We are approved each year, and in fact, we've been very fortunate to have the highest score of those that are seeking that grant, and consistently every year. And the stipulation on that is that we have to be able to have 20% of local funds in order to receive an award, and ODOT pays 80% of that. So that just gives you an idea. So the levy really, all in all, accounts for 89% of the total budget. Levy is the payer of last resort. So if there is an individual eligible for Medicaid or is a veteran and receives VA services and VA funding, then that's where we go first to those funders, because that helps us leverage those levy dollars. You can see the revenue stream from 1969, when we started with $11,000, which was a state grant that the commissioners assisted Lois Browndale in acquiring. And then as we move forward, and you can see the actual revenue for 2019, $7,209,412. Among the programs is the first one I'd like to just kind of touch on is home care, and that is our largest program. And right now we are serving individuals in their homes, providing home care such as personal care, bathing, shampooing, but then also homemaking, because that helps an individual live in a safe, healthy environment. Home delivered meals, many people know that as Meals on Wheels, and we provided in 2019 81,110 meals. And the really a wonderful part about this is we have so many Meals on Wheels volunteers, and they are delivering 80% of all the Meals on Wheels. And that just, again, it's another way that we can leverage our levy dollars even further into services because of the level of volunteer commitment that exists. Adult day services, these take place at the campus in Batavia, and that is our Lois Browndale Welcome Center. 67,577 hours of service were provided to 175 individuals. Again, there are a variety of funding sources there, and the levy continues as being the payer of last resort. We do not charge fees for those services. There are donations only. That's made very clear to the individuals that where we're providing service. You see just a few pictures of some of the activities that they have there. Home repair and modification. This particular service, we utilize some contractors, but then again, same thing. Lots of volunteers will help us. You can see one of the renovation projects here, the bathroom in this individual's home, what it was before in the upper left-hand corner, and then what it looks like now. In 2019, we provided 2,175 hours of service to 252 seniors. Again, same thing on the left, the condition of that bathroom and before the volunteers went in and did the work, and then on the right-hand side, you'll see the aftershot. Case management, all of our Meals on Wheels and home care customers are case managed. And basically what that means is because there is a program that is provided by the federal government under the Older Americans Act, we follow those guidelines. And it's required that we at least follow the guidelines that they present, and then we have some guidelines along with it. There are local guidelines too. The case managers, it's a person-centered care coordination model, so they're meeting individually with the person in his or her home, determining what level of need that individual has, what level of care that they need, and then there's a plan of care that is developed by that case manager. Our case managers are licensed social workers, registered nurses, and licensed practical nurses. That continuum of care is very important because when they team an individual, then they can also discuss, well, what else is needed? Do they need transportation? Do they need home repair and safety? When that case manager goes into the home to make the assessment, he or she is really looking for, is the home safe? Do they need some assistance here? And in all of those areas are assessed by the case manager. We also have lifelong learning centers. We have 3 5-day-a-week centers, and they provide continuing lifelong learning opportunities as well as volunteer opportunities and socialization. And we currently have 2 fully functioning 5-day-a-week centers, one at the Miami Township Civic Center as well as another at Union Township Civic Center, and there is a third at the Bethel Center, Clermont East, which is at Bethel Woods, and it's a 2-day-a-week program. During this period of time, of course, our adult daycare center as well as our lifelong learning centers are not operating. But if someone visits our website, we have interactive activities. And with adult daycare, we have the activity specialist, and the families that have the internet access, they can actually watch and do the activities while the activity specialist is doing that. And we have a lot of other good resources by visiting our site. We had to close and then handle the most immediate critical needs. And then, we're faced with, social isolation is really, it can lead to many things as well. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish with offering the various resources on our website. You can see some of their activities when they are able to be together. We also do limited congregate meals, and this is on-site congregate meals that actually are provided at those lifelong learning centers, but they're not provided every day, and that's a demand. That's kind of thing. They're not always, the seniors are not always in demand of having meals on site, but they really do enjoy it when they're able to. And we talked a little bit earlier about the specialized medical transportation and other transportation services. You can see that in 2009, we provided 48,365 trips for 1,168 unduplicated seniors. And our vehicles covered 647,178 miles. And about 160 of those were veterans in our community, because we do take people outside of the county. We only transport Clermont County residents, but we will take them outside of the county, like to VA hospital, for instance. And these are some of the vehicles, and I'm sure everyone has probably passed one of the vehicles at some point in time, maybe many more, I would say. In 2019, we were awarded 2 vehicles under the program that I mentioned, and we were also awarded funding for software that enhanced our scheduling and dispatch capabilities, and that total project cost was $145,323. And the federal share paid $116,258, but the local share was only 20%, which is $29,065. When I mentioned earlier, those are levy dollars directly allowing us to be eligible for the greater dollars. And when we are awarded vehicles, we're replacing high maintenance, high mileage vehicles so that we have a very safe fleet. Adult Protective Services, we talked about that briefly earlier with the proclamation, and this is something that we do under contract with the Clermont County Department of Job and Family Services. We do perform the investigations and work with the Clermont County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, as well as with many agencies in the county. Several years ago, we started a task force that meets on a monthly basis of organizations like the DD and mental health and the hospital, and anyone whose fingers touch basically these cases, then they work together to try to make sure that we're doing the very best and we're working in the most efficient manner for older adults. We also have people who are from banks, and they help us get the word out, because financial exploitation is a serious situation right now, as you would guess. You mentioned earlier in the proclamation that in 2019 there were 505 referrals for investigation, but what you can see is, you can see how that has increased significantly, and I think a lot of that has to do with certainly just the growth in the population of Clermont County. You mentioned that in the proclamation earlier as well. And so these kind of tend to run in alignment in terms of growth with the way our 60-plus population is growing. And certainly substance abuse by family members has made a significant impact on that too. We have had to expand the investigative staff from 1 full-time and 2 backup part-time investigators. We now have 2 full-time and 3 backup investigators. And then we also have the oversight of the RN Director of Case Management, Home Care, and Adult Protective Services. And she spends a significant amount of time dedicated to that program in particular. In addition, we have a contract with the Clermont County Probate Court, and we serve guardianships as well as do guardianship investigations in the county. 75 were performed last year. And the Volunteer Guardian Program is a wonderful program that we started in the fall of 2018. And really, it was important because we needed to be able to respond, to work with the court and to be able to respond for that need. For guardians. Now, not guardians of estate, they're guardians of person. They help make decisions for individuals who cannot make decisions for themselves. And they don't have family members who are able or who are willing to assist. And what's important is that the volunteers don't have financial responsibility. That's something that when we talk to people, they don't want financial responsibility, but they want to be able to help that individual. And everyone that is, every guardian appointed to an individual is, that person, does make decisions in terms of that individual's care and visit on a monthly basis. Clermont Senior Services provides all the orientation, training, and ongoing support for that program for the volunteers. And I've already mentioned several times the volunteer program in general. And last year we had 317 volunteers, and they provided 28,476 hours of service. I mean, when you think about that in terms of leveraging of funds, that is so significant that they are able, and we're able to work with them, that they can help us provide these services, and we don't have to have paid staff in order to do it. We can do so much more to help people. And I had also mentioned that about 77 to 80% of our Meals on Wheels are in fact delivered to homebound individuals. We have a wonderful program with local police departments and the sheriff's department, and they participate in our visiting officers program. So it's really nice if someone's living in a neighborhood and they feel a little isolated, and an officer stops in the cruiser to visit and to check on them to make sure that they're okay. It's a great service, and these officers, they really do an amazing job, and we're so grateful for that. In addition, Clermont Senior Services has developed with HUD some affordable housing communities. We have 7 in Clermont County, and I do want to mention that no dollars going into either the construction of these communities or the maintenance and ongoing costs associated with them. None of that comes from the levy. But it's important that we're able to provide this because the need is so significant. And we have the 7 communities are specifically for individuals seniors who are low income. And you can see at the end of 2019, there were 435 seniors on the waiting list for the 264 total units that we have. And these are just pictures here in Batavia, Dimmitt Woods, Summerside, Goshen, Felicity, Amelia, Williamsburg, and New Richmond. They're beautiful facilities.
Cindy, before you move on.
Yeah.
I know that number has remained pretty significant as far as like 435 people.
It keeps growing.
What's the long-term plan for that? I mean, what can be done to level those numbers out to where we have as many units available as we have seniors?
Well, probably the biggest challenge has been that the HUD 202 funding for new development for senior housing was pretty much obliterated probably 10 years ago.
I understand.
By that administration.
They're like $30 million for the whole United States or something, was it?
Yes, and recently, last year, HUD reinstated that piece of the HUD 202 program, and they replaced it with $30 million for last year. This year, they've replaced it with $50 million. So I'm part of an advocacy group to try to get that to grow. One of the things we really had intentions of being able to apply this year for part of that $50 million, and even though it's nationwide, it's not a lot of money, but it doesn't matter. We're going to go after it regardless in order to provide more housing. But because of COVID, it's just it's kind of put a.
So that comes through Secretary Ben Carson's.
It does, yes. And like I said, HUD 202 has continued to exist, but any dollars that were intended for new development for senior housing were completely obliterated.
Do they still call that the HUD 202 program, or did they change that?
I'm sorry?
Is it still called HUD 202, or is it called?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Clermont Senior Services, as you can see, we've worked very, very hard to be as lean as we can possibly be. And where you see in 2008, there were actually 143 full-time equivalents, employees working at Clermont Senior Services. And we just went in and really dug very deep. And I will tell you, I'm most proud of the fact that we didn't lay anyone off during that time. As you can see, the changes, we were able to achieve a lot of what we did through planning and attrition, and so we were able to greatly reduce that. But in the same respect, we were able to keep full-time jobs in home care, for instance, which is very, very important to keep people working on a full-time basis, especially those in that industry, and where many places do not. But you can see the trend is downward. Now, where we've grown some is because of really, honestly, Medicaid dollars, not levy dollars, but Medicaid dollars that were made available through the My Care Ohio program. And that's where we have increased those numbers. But we've been very successful, and we do far more service than we did even prior to 2008. And it's remained, our customer satisfaction surveys, Tom, you get copies of those every quarter, and those have remained very, very high. And you also mentioned earlier the Scripps Gerontology Center of Miami University had projected back in 2010, well, really the study was in 2000, and you can see where the projection was 51,138 in 2020. So with the census, it'll be very interesting, but we see the growth, and we know the growth is there, and we feel it in terms of the increased services. But you can kind of see where the different counties fall in terms of growth and the 60-plus population. But we continue to be very committed to being responsible stewards of the dollars that the citizens of Clermont County have entrusted us to use to care for seniors in our community. And we're always welcome for any questions that the Board of County Commissioners have, but then to the community. Do you have any other questions?
Board, anything else?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate.
Thanks for being here today. We'll continue with the agenda.
These are our audit. That's our audit.
We are at E, the consent agenda. Board, consent agenda has been prepared for you. I know you have had it early and had the opportunity to review it. Are there any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda for further conversation or discussion?
None.
None here.
Hearing none, I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make the motion. A second.
Been moved and received a second. Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Humphrey,
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. And we'll move to F, the non-consent agenda. Non-consent agenda starts on page 2 with item number 3. Item number 3, it's a recommendation the Board of Clermont County Commissioners adopt resolution number 077-20, resolving to approve payment to vendors in the total amount of $1,677,735.47 as set forth in the BCC approval invoice report for the checks dated June 10th, 2020, and the BCC directed prepaid invoice reports and/or the procurement card transaction report, as presented by the county auditor on June 8th, 2020, and further authorizing the county auditor to issue warrants for the same pursuant to section 319.16 of the Ohio Revised Code. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran,
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey,
Aye.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 4.
Good morning, Suki Sheets with the County Engineer's Office. Item number 4 is a recommendation of Jeremy Evans with the concurrence of Tom Eigel to award the bid for project number 105055, and this is relative to the Pierce Township Park Paths project. which is located in Pierce Township. This is pursuant to the plans and specs. It's going to be awarded to Roberts Paving out of Hillsborough, Ohio, for their lowest and best bid received on March 19th, 2020, in a mathematically corrected amount of $230,148.94, and to execute the contract relative thereto. That will be pursuant to the terms and conditions set forth therein and the awarded bid therefore. This is the joint project that we are doing with Pierce Township. Pierce Township was awarded ODOT money, or OPWC money. 80% will be covered by OPWC, and Pierce Township will pay the other 20%. And it will provide for just under 2,000 feet of multipurpose use trail.
Board, excuse me, Board, you've heard the reading of item number 4. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Humphrey,
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item 5.
There is a recommendation to execute an agreement for stormwater utility assessment services. This will be between the Board, County Commissioners, and the Woods, Estates, and Sanctuary at Miami Trails Homeowners Association, which will authorize the county engineer to conduct a condition assessment of the current stormwater infrastructure for an evaluation of a potential stormwater utility district that would encompass the county properties located within the homeowners association at an estimated cost of $16,500, which would be reimbursed by the new stormwater district, or if the utility is not approved, by the homeowners association, which is the Woods, Estates, and Sanctuary.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 5. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and received a second. Any conversation or discussion? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 6.
The recommendation to adopt resolutions number 078-20 through 103-20, which resolves to establish the annual maintenance assessment for the 25 listed subdivisions located across different townships within the county as it relates to public water courses in the amounts outlined in the table and in compliance with Chapter 6137 of the Ohio Revised Code. We have 25 different public water courses that we assess to the different people within those subdivisions, a portion of the maintenance cost of those. Typically, they are $10 per half or less. There's only a few cases where it's over that, is because the lots have combined. So we do this every year, it's the same amount.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 6. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion. I'll second it, Ed. No,
Been moved and received a second. Anything further? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is a recommendation executed 3214 for the replats of lot numbers 19 and 20 in the Fisher subdivision, and replat of lot number A in the Beachmont Park subdivision, block 1. And these will create a new lot number 20A in the Fisher subdivision.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 7. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Suki, this is a follow-on from the vacation that was done, right, for Fisher?
Correct. This is the replat that was required in order to do the vacation.
Okay. Nothing further. Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 8.
Item number 8 is a recommendation to award a bid. This is for project number 149 relative to the 2020 pavement marking program located within various townships. This is pursuant to the plans and specs. This will be awarded to the Aeromark Company out of Streetsboro, Ohio, for their lowest and best bid received on June 4th in the amount of $132,151.85, and to also execute the contract relative thereto, pursuant to and in compliance with the terms and conditions set forth in the award bid therefore.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 8. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 9.
Number 9 will be me. This is a recommendation of Thomas J. Eigel to adopt resolution number 104-20, resolving to endorse the 2020 Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy prepared by the Ohio Valley Regional Development Commission, and resolving to authorize the County of Clermont to participate in the OVRDC Commission for fiscal year 2021, and to remit the sum of $39,221.00, which represents the participatory share of funding from the County of Clermont relative thereto on or after 1/1/21, and further resolving to support the OVRDC Commission's Economic Development District Planning Partnership Investment Grant Program with the United States Department of Commerce Economic Development Administration for planning grant funds for the annual performance period of 1/1/21 through 12/31/21. This is this group does economic development in Ohio Valley, so it's more than just Ohio, and Clermont County has always been a supporter of it, and this also receives funding through the Department of Commerce as well. So this is something the county's participated in for several years, and it's a good program to help the region.
And I understand this is gauged based on populace,
Right.
and there was not an increase in the rate this year? It was the same rate?
It's been the same rate, correct.
Okay. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 9. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make the motion.
Second.
Then moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 10.
Number 10 is a recommendation of myself, Greg Bickford, Assistant County Administrator, to adopt resolution number 105-20, approving the qualified application filed with the Ohio Development Services Agency by Nestlewood Solar One LLC for a qualified energy project application located in Tate Township, Clermont County, which will permit the development of an alternative energy generation facility to be owned by Nestlewood Solar One LLC, 909 Lake Carolyn Parkway, number 260, Irving, Texas, on property identified with parcel IDs 32300 5H029/30, 32300 7F012, 32300 7K025 and 026, and 32300 7K109 pursuant to 5727.75 of the ORC. This, if you recall, you received the public presentation last week on the development. This is for the 80 megawatt named capacity, and this will permit the development to proceed forward with the necessary tax incentive, of which Clermont County will be a beneficiary, as well as the local school district.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 10. This is for the Nestlewood Solar LLC for agreement with the application for a qualified energy project located in Tate Township, and our only portion of it is Tate Township, but this is also located in Brown County. This particular project is a revenue enhancement to 2 school districts, one at obviously Bethel Tate schools, and then I understand Western Brown schools also.
That's correct. Brown County's already approved their side of the project.
Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
A second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 11.
Number 11 is a
Before we
recommendation.
go on,
Sure.
can I ask a question? Do we need to appoint Holly clerk pro tem? Did we forget that, or was I asleep during that?
No, sir, we do not have to do that. She has been designated as the assistant clerk to perform those duties as part of her position. So we did check.
Very good. Sorry.
We did check on that, and so we are good.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, though,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Holly.
Thank you. Item number 11.
Number 11 is a recommendation of Thomas J. Eigel to authorize myself to sign on behalf of the county the assignment and assumption agreement between Shenandoah Union Company LLC and Avalon Form LLC, which assigns certain tax abatements for the real property described in the existing CRA agreement approved on March 3rd, 2013 at a regular session of the Board of County Commissioners, Clermont, County, Ohio, described in Section 14 of the CRA agreement. What this is, the owner of the property received a CRA abatement on the apartment complex back in 2003. The original owners are now selling it to a new owner, and in order to complete that sale, the county must sign off on the CRA agreement to continue that existing program. There are 2 years left in the program until it's completed, and the taxes and terms and conditions of the original agreement are all up to date and current.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 11. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Item number 12.
Good morning.
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 Item number 12 is the recommendation of William Harris, Director of Clermont Transportation Connection, with the concurrence of Thomas J. Igle, County Administrator, to reduce service trips for Metro Route 82X Eastgate from 5 morning trips to 3 and from 5 afternoon trips to 3, in accordance with Section 6 of the agreement, by and between the Clermont County Board of Commissioners and the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority, executed 12/18/2019, and to amend the agreement by and between the Clermont County Board of Commissioners and the Southwest Ohio Regional Transit Authority, executed on 12/18/2019, in accordance with Addendum 1 attached hereto, in and as it relates to COVID-19 pandemic, which has reduced the number of riders utilizing Route 82X. Notifications of service changes shall be posted to the Clermont Transportation Connection website at ctc.clermontcountyohio.gov. Additionally, the FTA came out with guidance on in March, relieving us from public hearings. Additionally, the DOD 4702.1B says that if it's a temporary change in case of emergency, which the COVID-19 qualifies as emergency, public hearings are not necessary.
Okay. Board, you've heard the reading of item number 12 and the explanation for the elimination of public meetings for us to be able to consider. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
A second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion before we vote? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. That concludes our agenda as presented. G, additions to the agenda. Tom, I understand we have one addition to the agenda.
Yes, sir. Water Resources Department for the board's consideration, and this is for the Locust Lake Lift Station project, and it is a rejection of bids and re-advertisement for bids.
Okay. So I would ask for a motion to add this this proposed resolution to the agenda for the Locust Lake Lift Station. Do I have a motion to add to make the addition to the agenda?
Make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and received a second. Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. It's now been added to the agenda, and we will consider it. The resolution as read is Ansley with us here this morning, Tom, or should?
That's Mr. Bloom.
Lyle, you're going to take care of it?
Yes, I will.
All righty, thank you.
All right, this is a recommendation to reject all bids received on April 30th, 2020 for project number 6402-60141 relative to the Locust Lake Lift Station and Conveyance Improvements Project located in Batavia and Pierce Townships, pursuant to and in compliance with Chapter 307 of the Ohio Revised Code relative to the terms and conditions of public bidding, and to approve the request to re-advertise for bids for the project pursuant to and in compliance with the plans and specifications, and to authorize the clerk of the board to place a legal notice in a newspaper of general circulation on Thursday, June 18th, 2020, schedule a non-mandatory pre-bid meeting on Thursday, July 2nd, 2020 at 10 a.m., with bids to be received until 2:00 p.m. local time on Thursday, July 9th, 2020, in the office of the Board of County Commissioners, 101 East Main Street, Batavia, Ohio, where they will be publicly open and read aloud shortly thereafter, and the legal notice will also be posted on the county's website. So we did bid this project, and we opened bids on April 30th, 2020. We received 3 bids. The apparent low bidder had an issue with the bid bond, and there was guidance that we could not award to that bidder due to the error in the bid bond. Then the second low bidder, there was approximately $290,000 more than the apparent low. All of our legal notices, anytime we go out to bid, the Board of County Commissioners reserve the right to reject any and all bids. So we're falling back to that right. We think it's prudent to just reject all the bids and go back out to bid on this. The engineer's estimate on the project is $1,760,000, which is the same as it was for the last bid.
Board, you've heard the reading of item number 13, which is the add-on for the agenda for the recommendation that Lyle's just made to reject all bids for the Locust Lake Lift Station. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
I'll second.
Been moved and received a second. There any further conversation or discussion? Lyle, just a discussion there. What was can I ask what the estimate was for this job? Was that published? If it wasn't
Yes.
published, what was the estimate?
$1,760,000.
Okay. And low bid was?
The apparent low, hold on here. The apparent low was $1,598,170.
In the second low was?
The second low was $1,889,330.
So just for conversation, the second low was within a 10% of the engineer's estimate, is that correct?
They were within the 10%, correct?
Okay. And just so we talk about in open session, you're aware that we did receive a legal letter from the second low establishing their particular statement that they should be awarded that contract because the apparent low was unable to satisfy the requirements of the bid. Is that correct?
That is correct. We did consult with the prosecutor's office, and again, we can go back to the legal notice, and the board still reserves that right to reject all bids at any time, and that's the recommendation here, considering the circumstances.
Okay. I haven't asked for a vote at this point. Since the second low, were they responsible and responsive to all requests in the bid document?
Yes, based on our review, they did meet all the requirements.
Then just for the record, board, I'm going to vote no. And if they presented this bid in a competitive environment and they were the second low and they are responsive and responsible and within 10% of the bid, it's my recommendation that this contract be awarded to the second low. But that's fair for your consideration. Any further conversation or discussion?
Well, how do you feel about that?
Well, like I said, the difference was $290,000. The issue with the apparent low was we require a 10% bid guarantee if they provide it in the form of a check or letter of credit. If they provide it in the form of a bond, they're required by code to be 100%. Their bonding agent inserted only 10% into that bid bond. They, in writing, had agreed to provide the remainder to correct that. However, the prosecutor's office said that we could not do that in accordance with code, which was fine. So we thought, considering the dollar amount difference, it would be best just to reject all bids and entertain new bids.
And we have the right to reject all bids because we put that in the bid document.
Correct.
You do. Anything further?
Do we have to make this decision today, or can we do this next Wednesday, since I'd like to review the documents?
Yeah, we can if the
Yeah,
board.
prior to, I just got this add-on, and I'd like to review it in advance, if I could, please, before I vote on something.
Lyle, what's the timeline for this?
Let's see, we opened bids April 30th, so we have 60 days from that date to award any bids, if we're going to award those bids. And we have about until the end of June. So maybe the last session of June, I'm going to pull up my calendar. So we have.
Claire's only asking for one more week.
Yeah,
so-
well, they need till the 17th. Our next session, 17th. Is that going to be all right?
I won't be here. I'll be on vacation, but that's fine. We can have someone from our department Zoom in or attend the meeting to answer any questions.
We can if the board would like to table this issue, and we'll.
Well, we have it on the, obviously, we have a motion and we have a second, which means it's owned by the board right at the moment for a vote. Does the board agree to withdraw from the board and then consider a tabled item? Is that what we agree?
Fine with me.
Okay.
Agree?
Table for
Do we
the
vote no
17th.
in order to get there, or do we just simply say that?
Just
I,
table it.
I think we vote no. We're on the, and then we will reconsider.
Okay,
You can vote no and then just agree to table the issue until next Wednesday session.
Or we can effectively withdraw the motion as long as we agree. If it's agreed to withdraw, who made the motion? Who made the motion?
Commissioner Humphrey.
Commissioner Humphrey, do you want to withdraw your motion?
yes.
And Commissioner Corcoran, do you want to withdraw? You second?
Yes.
Okay. It's agreed to withdraw. Would one of the board members like to make a motion to table the item?
So moved.
I'll
Okay.
second.
Then moved and second. Anything further? Roll call. Holly, to table?
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes. Any other additions to the agenda today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I understand that we have a need to go into executive session, but not until 1 o'clock. Is that correct?
No, we would need to go into executive session.
Okay, we are going to do that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then I would move to H, executive session. Where I'm requesting an executive session pursuant to section 121.22, G1 and G3 of the Ohio Revised Code to first consider the employment or dismissal of one or more public employees, and second, to confer with the prosecuting attorney regarding pending or imminent litigation, respectively. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and received a second. Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran.
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey.
Aye.
Commissioner Painter.
Yes, we will move to executive session. We will return and conduct further business. Thank you.
It is off. We're going to be on just a second.
We are back from executive session. There were no actions taken and no decisions made. We'll proceed on with the agenda. Tom, do we have any further additions to the agenda?
Commissioner Painter, we have one add-on for the board's consideration, and it's personnel actions in the Department of Public Safety Services.
Board, you've heard the request to make an addition to the agenda for personnel actions. Do I have a motion to add personnel actions to the agenda?
So moved.
A second.
It's been moved and received a second. Roll call, Holly?
Commissioner Humphrey?
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. These personnel items have now been added to the agenda. Sandy?
Hello, Commissioners. Sandy DeHaat, Human Resources, and the first personnel action recommendation is for Amy Batista, Emergency Resource Technician, administrative leave, non-disciplinary with pay, effective June 9th, 2020.
Board, you've heard the request to consider a leave of absence. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey?
Aye.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
The second personnel action is for Amy Batista, Emergency Resource Technician, administrative leave, end the administrative leave with pay, effective today, June 10th, 2020.
Board, you've heard the request to discontinue the leave of absence for, is it Miss Batista? Is that
Yes.
correct?
Should I leave?
For administrative leave, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
A second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Humphrey?
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
And the last personnel action is for Amy Batista, Emergency Resource Technician, termination, probationary removal, effective today, June 10th, 2020.
Board, you've heard the reading of the request for disciplinary action for termination of Amy Batista. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Been moved and received a second. Any further conversation?
For clarification, that was probationary removal.
Probationary removal. Got it. Thank you. Any further conversation or discussion? Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Humphrey?
Aye.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further additions, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I understand that we have a need to recess the meeting until 1 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Board, I'm asking to recess this meeting until 1 o'clock. At such time, we will resume. Do I have a motion to go into recess?
I'll make the motion. A second.
Been moved and received a second. Roll call, Holly.
Commissioner Humphrey?
Aye.
Commissioner Corcoran?
Yes.
Commissioner Painter?
Yes. And that recess went into effect at 12:26, is that right?
So we'll return here at 1 o'clock and then go into executive session.
That is correct. We will resume the meeting at 1 o'clock, and we will conduct further business. Thanks for being with us this morning, and we'll see you at 1 o'clock.